breaking confirmation came quietly in the early hours of this morning. Around 2 a.m., a meaningful shift took place inside the U.S. Treasury Department. One that few people noticed at the time, but one that could matter deeply to millions of Americans. The approval process for $2,000 tariff rebate checks has officially moved forward. There was no press conference, no dramatic announcement, no headlines flashing across television screens. Instead, the decision was finalized the way many government actions are, through internal authorization and administrative signals that indicate something has moved from discussion into action. For seniors living on fixed incomes, and for Americans who spent decades working, saving, and planning for stable retirement, only to feel that stability slowly erode, this development may carry more weight than it first appears. My name is Dustin. For more than 10 years, I've spent time listening to retirees, widows, widowers, couples entering life after 60, and everyday Americans who deserve clarity instead of confusion. I'm not here to create fear, exaggerate headlines, or rush anyone into worry. I'm here to calmly explain what this change means, why it matters, and what you need to know next, clearly, respectfully, and at your pace. So let's take this step by step. What happened overnight wasn't just about a dollar figure. It reflected a deeper shift in how Treasury officials are looking at real-life numbers, the kind you see on grocery receipts, pharmacy counters, and energy bills. New data confirmed what many seniors already know. Fixed incomes are no longer stretching the way they once did. Originally, this tariff rebate program focused mainly on workers and middle-income households affected by rising import costs. But that focus has now been adjusted to reflect an important reality. Retirement life comes with pressures that are fundamentally different and often more rigid than those faced by working households. It's important to be clear and avoid misunderstandings. This was not an announcement that checks are being mailed immediately. It was not a new stimulus bill passed overnight. What occurred was an internal administrative shift, permission within the Treasury to adjust the review process and move seniors closer to the front, not as an afterthought, but as a recognition of genuine need. This matters because the rebate program is funded through existing tariff revenue, not through new legislation that will require lengthy political battles. That distinction is important. Once eligibility categories are finalized, the systems that move those funds can begin working. And last night, those systems moved, quietly, deliberately, and without spectacle. When government systems move quietly, it often means they are clearing a practical path forward. In everyday terms, this means the idea of a rebate is no longer rumor or speculation. It means the system has acknowledged that fixed incomes don't bend when prices rise. Retirees can't simply work extra hours, switch shifts, or take on side jobs. Your income is steady, but it doesn't flex. And when costs increase, that lack of flexibility becomes the real burden. To stay grounded, this confirmation does not mean instant payments, automatic eligibility, or money arriving tomorrow. What it does mean is that seniors who rely primarily on federal benefits are now being considered earlier in the review process than before. That shift happened because the data became impossible to ignore. Analysts saw the same pattern seniors have been living. Groceries costing a little more each month, utilities creeping upward, prescriptions becoming steadily more expensive. Small increases that add up quickly when your income never changes. Working households often have options. Retirees do not. When the question shifted from who might benefit to who has the least ability to recover, if we wait, priorities changed. What happened overnight wasn't political theater. It was a practical acknowledgement of vulnerability, one that had been overlooked for too long. While it doesn't promise immediate relief, it does offer something many seniors have been waiting for: recognition. Recognition that retirement today is not the carefree season many once imagined, but a careful balancing act that deserves attention. And even when that recognition arrives quietly, it still matters. Then suddenly, utility bills nudge higher, little by little. Co-pays increase in small amounts that didn't look like much on paper, but felt heavy when there was nothing left to adjust. What the data showed, and what many seniors already knew in their bones, is that a fixed income doesn't bend. When everything around you shifts upward and what comes in each month stays the same, there is no extra space to soften the blow. And that's what finally caught the eye of decision makers. I've sat across too many kitchen tables listening to stories that sound almost identical from one household to another. A widow stretching medication because she's worried the refill will land before the next deposit. A couple deciding which bill gets paid now and which one waits until next week. Someone quietly choosing not to drive to see family because gas feels like a luxury. None of this makes headlines. None of it shows up in political speeches, but it shows up clearly when you look at numbers over time. And eventually the system had to acknowledge it. That acknowledgement matters. Being seen matters. When policymakers stopped asking only who qualifies on paper and started asking who has the least room to recover if help arrives too late, priorities naturally shifted. Not to reward one group over another, but to recognize vulnerability and treat it with the respect it deserves. That shift led to something many are now calling a priority lane, even though it wasn't advertised that way. Think of it less like favoritism and more like triage, the way a doctor checks a person in the most fragile condition first. The original setup assumed working households would feel tariff-related pressure more quickly, but the new reports revealed something different. Seniors, especially those depending mainly on Social Security, disability, survivor benefits, or SSI, were actually absorbing the pressure sooner and with far less room to adapt. So the review process was rebuilt to reflect real life instead of theory. In practical terms, the system now moves more like organized lanes. One lane reviews people whose purchasing power is smallest and whose financial cushion is almost non-existent. Many seniors living primarily on federal benefits fall here. These files are reviewed earlier, not because anyone stamped them more deserving, but because a small unexpected expense can knock everything off balance when income doesn't change. A second lane reviews people who still face pressure but have a little more room to adjust temporarily. Their review continues steadily, just not as urgently. And there's a third lane for more complex situations, higher incomes, mismatched records, or details that require more verification before any money moves. One of the quiet advantages many seniors have in all of this is stability. You may have had the same direct deposit for years, the same benefit source, the same name, the same records. And when the information already matches across systems, reviews can move more smoothly because there is less detective work to do. But I want to be honest because honesty keeps expectations healthy. Being closer to the front doesn't mean money appears overnight. Priority means earlier attention, not instant results, not guaranteed dates, not automatic approval. There can still be pauses, corrections, and questions along the way. And that isn't a punishment. It's simply the system making sure accuracy comes before movement, which ultimately protects you. Naturally, the next question most people ask, often quietly and with a little nervousness in their voice, is this. So, where do I fit into all of this? And that is such a fair question. From what the guidance suggests, the earlier review focus leans toward seniors whose income is built mainly around federal benefits rather than ongoing wages. That includes people receiving Social Security retirement benefits, survivor benefits, disability benefits, or supplemental security income. These are households where almost every dollar has a job the moment it arrives. Medication, groceries, utilities, transportation, small emergencies here and there. When costs rise even a little, there isn't an easy place to trim. For many, the budget is already trimmed to the bone. Income ranges appear to play a role, but not in a way meant to judge or label. It's simply about understanding vulnerability. Many of the most financially stretched seniors fall somewhere under the $30,000 range per year. Within that group, those receiving around $1,300 a month or less tend to be viewed as especially tight on breathing room. And when income drops closer to $1,100 a month, the system recognizes that life at that level leaves almost no margin at all. That doesn't mean someone is automatically approved or denied. It simply means they are seen more quickly because waiting too long can create real hardship very fast. And there is something else important here. It isn't only about the number on paper. Treasury analysts also began weighing something called stability. Most seniors cannot quickly pick up extra shifts, negotiate higher salaries, or jump into new jobs when prices rise. A fixed benefit offers predictability, but it also offers limits. And once that reality was factored in, it changed how the review process was designed. Another quiet factor that can make things smoother is what some systems call fast verify. Many seniors fall into this category simply because their information doesn't change often. The same name, the same bank account, the same address for years. When everything lines up across Social Security, IRS files, and benefit records, there's less back and forth paperwork and fewer questions to resolve. That can help the process move more cleanly. But I want to say this with as much honesty and compassion as possible. Two people can seem almost identical on paper and still move through the process at different speeds. Something as small as an address change, a bank account update, a name correction, or an old record mismatch can slow things down. That isn't punishment. It's simply caution. And when money is involved, caution protects everyone. The heart of this change is not about creating winners and losers. It is about making sure that the people with the least room to recover are not quietly left standing at the back of the line. And then, of course, comes another question I hear almost every day. What do I need to do? And honestly, the answer may be more comforting than you expect. For most seniors, there is nothing to rush out and apply for. There is no secret sign-up page. There is no early waiting list that someone can sneak you onto. The strength of this process is that it relies heavily on information the government already has. Social Security records, IRS data, and existing benefit systems. Reviews are happening quietly in the background, which means you don't need to chase paperwork or feel like you're competing for position. There are, however, a few normal situations where you may be asked to confirm something. If you have moved recently, change banks, close an account, or if your records don't match exactly across systems, there may be a request to verify. That's simply part of keeping your information safe. The key is knowing where real communication shows up. Any legitimate request will appear only in secure official portals, such as your IRS online account or your My Social Security account, not through random emails, not through text messages promising early access, and absolutely not through someone calling and demanding your Social Security number, bank login, or an activation fee. If anyone pressures you like that, hang up, take a breath, and talk to someone you trust before doing anything. That is not the government. That is a scam. You deserve protection, not fear. The best thing you can do right now is calmly, when you have time, log into your official accounts and make sure everything is accurate. Check your address. Check your direct deposit information. Make sure the bank account listed is still the one you use. Little mistakes, a typo, a closed account, an outdated mailing address, more delays than almost anything else. Fixing those now without stress and without rushing can save weeks of confusion later. Beyond that, there is no race, no deadline to panic over, no application that needs to be hunted down, just awareness, patience, and steady caution against anyone who tries to take advantage of uncertainty. One of the biggest questions rising quietly across living rooms right now is simply, so, when does anything actually happen? And I completely understand why that question feels heavy. Hope and uncertainty often sit side by side. What happened in those early hours wasn't the pressing of a button that sends out checks instantly. It was the approval that allows the system to move forward. Think of it like a long train that has been sitting at the station for a while. The engine finally started. The wheels began to roll, but the journey still has stops along the way. First, eligibility models run fully. Then, records across several systems are matched and double-checked. After that, payment methods, direct deposit, or mail checks are confirmed and verified. So nothing goes where it shouldn't. Only when those pieces line up does distribution begin. And here's something most people don't realize. You will often see movement before you ever see money. That might look like messages inside official portals, small status updates, or quiet notifications that something is under review. For some seniors, those steps will show up sooner simply because their information is simple, clean, and unchanged for years. For some people, progress takes a little longer. An address may have changed, a bank account might no longer be active, or a small detail may need correction. When things move slowly, it does not mean they have been denied. More often, it means the system is being careful. And when it comes to money, careful is far better than rushed. I know waiting can be frustrating. especially when every month already feels like a balancing act. But slow movement is still movement. The biggest mistake we can make is letting fear fill in the silence while the process continues quietly in the background. One question I hear repeatedly is this: if I receive this, will it affect my regular benefits? That concern is completely understandable, and it deserves a calm, clear explanation. This rebate is not considered wages or earned income. It is not meant to replace or reduce what you already receive each month. It falls into a separate category, more like financial relief than income tied to your Social Security calculation. In simple terms, it should not reduce your Social Security check, cancel your cost of living increases, or automatically trigger a review just because you received it. For seniors receiving supplemental security income, the concern often feels even heavier, because even small changes can feel risky. The guidance indicates that this rebate is generally not treated as regular ongoing income. The only time it could matter is if a large amount is left unused for a long period and begins to count toward asset limits. That is why the most practical approach is to use the relief wisely for food, utilities, prescriptions, home repairs, or catching up on overdue bills that have been weighing on you. Something else is very important to remember. Receiving relief like this does not put a target on you. You are not being punished for needing help, and you are not placed under special scrutiny. Any review happens before funds are issued. Once the money reaches you, the purpose is to provide breathing room, not stress. I have worked alongside seniors for over a decade, and I have seen how fear of what if often steals more peace than the money ever brings. Clear information and calm expectations matter far more than rumors. So what should you actually be doing right now? Thankfully, the answer is simple. You do not need to search for special websites, chase applications, or sign up anywhere. The review process relies largely on information that already exists in government systems. That means much of the work is already happening behind the scenes. What helps most is making sure your information is accurate. When you feel ready, take a few minutes to log into your IRS online account or your My Social Security account. Check your mailing address. Review your bank or direct deposit details. Ask yourself whether anything is outdated. Many delays happen not because of policy, but because of small issues like a closed account, an old address, or a minor spelling error. If something needs updating, do it calmly. There is no rush, no race, and no looming deadline, just steady preparation. As we move forward, please be cautious of anyone who uses fear to pressure you. No legitimate government agency will call you unexpectedly demanding your full Social Security number, banking login, gift cards, or fees to speed up payment. That is not assistance. It is exploitation. If someone claims they can unlock funds or fast-track approval in exchange for money, hang up, take a breath, and speak with someone you trust. You deserve protection, clarity, and peace, not pressure. I also want to slow down for a moment, because this conversation is about more than systems and eligibility rules. It is about the quiet weight many seniors have carried for years. Rising costs often creep in unnoticed, choosing generic brands, turning the heat down lower than feels comfortable, stretching medication, delaying repairs, or spacing out appointments, all while telling loved ones that everything is fine. I have heard that mix of strength and exhaustion so many times. That does not make you weak. It makes you human. Retirement today does not always match the peaceful picture many imagined years ago. The world changed faster than fixed incomes could. And when decision makers finally looked beyond numbers and saw real lives, something shifted. This assistance does not solve everything. A few $1,000s does not erase every worry, but it represents acknowledgement. It says, "We see the pressure you are under. We understand that fixed incomes can only stretch so far." Sometimes that recognition alone allows people to breathe more deeply than they have in a long time. If hearing this brings you even a little sense of steadiness, I am grateful. My goal is not to promise miracles or dramatic outcomes. My goal is to walk alongside you with honesty, clarity, and care, so you never feel lost or alone as things unfold. If this message helped you, there is a good chance it could help someone else too. Sharing it can help other seniors protect what they have worked so hard for. I would also love to hear from you. What is one money lesson you wish you had learned earlier in life? saving differently, saying no sooner, or asking more questions. Your experience may guide someone walking just behind you. I will continue watching this closely and translating every meaningful update into calm, easy-to-understand language. Until then, take a deep breath, stay patient, stay informed, and remember, you deserve dignity, stability, and peace in this stage of life.